In this video, I want to tell you the 3 things you need for a successful, healthy relationship so you can march off into the sunset hand in hand with your loved one, just as the thumbnail suggests. Many years ago, when I was traveling around New Zealand, I met a wise old French woman, and I won't try and do the accent here because it'll probably sound like she's from Japan or something, but we were talking about relationships and she had a lot of experience of failed relationships and successful ones. So me being curious as ever was trying to glean as much knowledge as I could from her about various topics. She said to me, a successful relationship requires these 3 things, and I'm going to go into them now. Before we go any further, please click the like and subscribe button, and that'll encourage me to make more videos like this, and you'll also be alerted of anything that I make that's related to this content moving forward. So the first thing on the list is communication. Every relationship starts with some form of communication, whether it's eye contact, whether it's the body language, whether it's a text message, a phone call, but ideally it's face to face. And at some point when you decide that you're going to give it a go with this person, then you start chatting a bit more and you end up getting to know each other a bit better. And that develops a deeper understanding of what each other wants, what each other needs, and wants and desires. And when you know a bit more about the person, you have a greater understanding of their values and also their boundaries. And that helps you identify what their triggers are, the things that upset them, but the things that also make them happy. This can be really helpful when it comes to conflict resolution. Every relationship should have some conflict. You need some sort of emotional tension to create the attraction dynamic, and you need to be able to talk about the things that are bothering you. And that may result in an argument because you're not always going to agree on things. That would be incredibly boring, but it's how you resolve those conflicts that is incredibly important, and you'll be able to resolve them much better the deeper your understanding of each other and the deeper your awareness of that other person is. And that only comes about through communication. Trust me, I've learned this the hard way. It's been a very steep learning curve when it comes to conflict resolution, but as long as you keep learning, that's all we can do. Communication helps to strengthen that bond between the two of you, which means you have a greater emotional connection and therefore a greater emotional attraction for one another. You might have heard me mention this in some of the videos, but most relationships fall apart as a result of a drop of emotional or physical attraction, but usually it's a combination of the two. One can lead to the other, and so on. So having strong communication really is the foundation for that emotional attraction. You get to know someone, you get to know a bit more about them. Those things are attractive, and they know a bit more about you. You're delving deeper into each other's soul, and that creates that really strong bond. And that healthy communication does something else as well. It helps improve the level of honesty in the relationship. And when your actions start matching your words on a consistent basis, this builds something that I'm going to talk about next, which is number 2 on the list, and that is trust. When your actions match your words on a consistent basis, you start to trust each other. Now, the trust provides a stable and secure base on which the relationship can grow, because you feel more relaxed when you trust the other person, you feel more comfortable, and that means you're more likely to identify with your authentic self, and so are they. And that's great, because if you're with someone who allows you to be totally comfortable in your own skin and to be who you truly are, and they're still in that relationship, that reinforces the belief that you are good enough, and that helps maintain your level of self-worth. And you might have heard me mention this before, but self-worth is the foundation of all functional relationships. So someone who supports that is a very good fit for you. Now, the thing with trust, it needs to be mirrored by both people in the relationship, because otherwise it'll fail. If someone starts making false accusations, that can cause the other person to withhold information, and then this vicious cycle of mistrust starts to form, and that can be extremely detrimental to the relationship. You see, a trusting environment is a safer environment, and people are more likely to be vulnerable in that environment. And vulnerability is the precursor to developing deeper feelings that will eventually lead to all the good stuff, including love. And love is the glue that holds these 3 things together. So that is the ultimate goal. But we won't get there unless we have these 3 things. And the other thing to note about trust is by building that safe environment, you've got more chance of being able to be vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you're more likely to explore each other in an intimate way, which will lead to number 3 on the list, which is sex. Now, there's nothing more vulnerable, certainly for a woman, than letting a man enter her in the act of sex. So she needs to feel safe enough to do that. So the trust and the communication is the start of all that, which will lead on to having those intimate moments together. If you have communication and trust, but you don't have sex, you have a friendship. Whereas once you put sex into the mix alongside trust and communication, you have a relationship. But they're all inextricably linked. If you have poor communication, then there's no guarantee the wants and desires will be met, because if you haven't voiced what it is you like, what it is you need, what it is you don't like, how's the other person supposed to know? They're not a mind reader, and that translates into the bedroom. So you really need to be sure that this person's on the same page as you. I do believe that we give off an energy, and when you get a greater understanding of each other, you don't necessarily have to talk about it. You just know you're vibing on the same frequency and you move together. So the sex evolves into something quite magical. But for most people, you need to have a few conversations about what it is you like and how you like it, because you might, following those conversations, decide that that's not the sort of thing you want from your sexual encounter. It might not be the way that you roll, and that could be the turning point for you. That might be a red flag in your relationship, but it starts with that communication. If you don't have trust, then the emotional attraction can break down, and therefore the physical attraction can break down, which will minimize the chances of you having intimacy and sex with this person. If you only have sex and trust, you have a strong physical connection but a weak emotional connection. So therefore you've got no real depth and no real genuine understanding of each other's needs. Sorry, I keep looking down there. I've got a little bird feeder on the window, and every time a bird flies onto that feeder, I get distracted. So I really need to move it, but it's just too good a position for when I'm doing the washing up and things. So anyway, I digress slightly. When we have sex and communication, that is a very fragile emotional connection, and it may affect intimacy and also increase the chance of conflict. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how important those three things are. And if you really want that happy, optimistic future full of love and all the good stuff, then you need to make sure you've got these three things in the relationship, and all of them involve work. Just because you have them at the start doesn't mean they're going to be there forever. You've got to keep talking to each other. You've got to keep trusting each other, and you've got to keep interacting with each other on a physical level. I really hope this has been helpful to you. These are some, might seem obvious, but very wise little nuggets that, like I say, I retained from an interaction with a French woman many years ago, and they still stand true today. And there's been a lot of things going on in my life since that point. So trust me, this knowledge has been tested. Please, as I said before, if this has been of value to you, or you think there's going to be some further content that might support the things that you're looking for, please click the like and subscribe button, and that will encourage me to make more videos like this. Don't forget, you're not alone in this journey. I aim to pass on as much knowledge as I have learnt myself to others. And if you want to work with me on a one-to-one basis, don't be afraid to reach out. You can get me at dan@yourwilderness.therapy.com. And I realise everybody's situation is unique to them, and only by knowing your specific situation can I give specific advice tailored to your needs. Don't be afraid to reach out. I've got you and you've got this. Thanks for watching.